Let me give you some quotes from history here. And this is from C.F. Thomas, Chancellor of the Archdiocese of Baltimore. Of course, the Catholic Church claims that the change was her act. That act is a mark of her ecclesiastical power and authority in religious matters. It's interesting, they use the word mark. They said, we changed the Sabbath. It wasn't done by the apostles of the early church. It was done by a corrupt religious organization, and most Protestants still follow. Now, don't miss me, friends. There are many Spirit-filled people that love the Lord in Catholic and Protestant churches that are going to be in heaven. They don't know. God winks at their ignorance. You with me? But He's calling people in the last days to come back to the Word. Reverend Peter Guynam, the Convert's Catechism. If you are learning to be a good Catholic, you've got to go through the Catechism. It's question and answer format. Here's the question. Which day is the Sabbath day? Answer, Saturday is the Sabbath day. Friends, this is a Catholic Catechism. Saturday is the Sabbath day. Then obviously you'd have another question, which is, why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? Answer, we observe Sunday instead of Saturday because the Catholic Church transferred, that's the word for changed, the solemnity from Saturday to Sunday. Did they do that based on the Bible? No. St. Catherine's Catholic Church Sentinel, 1995, this is more recent. Perhaps the boldest thing, the most revolutionary change the church ever did happened in the 1st century. They're wrong, it's actually more like the 3rd century. The holy day, the Sabbath, was changed from Saturday to Sunday, not from any direction noted in the Scriptures, but from the church's sense of its own power. People who think the Scripture should be the sole authority should logically become Seventh-day Adventists and keep Saturday holy. That's what the Catholic Church says. I say, thank you very much. I couldn't agree more. But they freely admit there is no Scripture that tells us to do that. These are man-made laws. Now, I'm watching the clock, and I got to pace myself here. I don't have time to read you. I've got pages of quotes from leading theologians, not members of my church. For example, Alexander Campbell, a great theologian you've probably heard of in the Christian Baptist. He said, the first day of the week is commonly called the Sabbath. This is a mistake. The Sabbath of the Bible was the last day preceding the first day of the week. The first day of the week was never called the Sabbath anywhere in the entire Scriptures. It is also an error to talk about the change of the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. There is not any place in the Bible, any intimation of such a change. It's not in the Bible. I can read John Wesley. I could read T.C. Blake. Here's a good one from Dwight Moody. You've all heard of the great evangelist Moody. The Sabbath was binding in Eden. It's been in force ever since. The 4th commandment began with the word remember, showing the Sabbath already existed when God wrote the law on the tables of stone at Sinai. How can men claim this one commandment has been done away with while they admit the other 9 are still in effect? Dr. Edward T. Hiscox, he wrote the Baptist Manual, great theologian. He says, there was and is a commandment to keep holy the Sabbath day, but that Sabbath day was not Sunday. It'll be said, however, with some show of triumph, the Sabbath was transferred from the 7th to the first day of the week. Where can the record of such a transaction be found? Not in the New Testament, absolutely not. It seems to me unaccountable that Jesus, during 3 years of intercourse with his disciples, often conversing with them upon the Sabbath question, never alluded to any transference of that day. And during the 40 days after his resurrection, no thing was intimated. I go through Bishop Seymour. We've made the change from the 7th day to the first day, from Saturday to Sunday, on the authority of the Holy Catholic Church. This is so clear in history, but you don't hear churches talking about it because it's an inconvenient truth, if you don't mind my quoting that.